that was a tough loss. That was a tough one there. Not gonna lie. I mean, had so many things going for the Kraken. Just they're leading for a while. Okay, lead's gone. Tie game. That's fine. Oh no, Calgary's ahead now. Okay, well at least you could lose in regulation. It helps team tank, right? Like you can at least you know be on board with something like that. You can at least understand that. And then Kraken go out there, they pull the goalie, they tie it, and you're like, okay, we're back in this. We can do this. This is fun. This is exciting. Everything's not that bad actually. And it was a great play. Matty Beniers, jumped in there net front, getting another primary assist off of swinging at a rebound in close against a goalie back-to-back games. Like, all right, we can do this. That's great. And then it goes to overtime. And look, Vince Dunn, absolutely right call to jump up in that spot like Kraken. That's a great play for them to make in 3-on-3 overtime. The pass from behind the net there, great steal from Ebbs to set up that sequence. Great pass, great jump up into the play from Vince Dunn. It's just that, yeah, if that play doesn't go for you, it's coming back that other way. And of course, Nazem Kadri has just been on fire lately, and he was able to put this one away and give the Kraken a regulation loss, which then loops us back around to the idea of tanking. And it's like arguably the worst outcome in that sense, just because it's still a loss, so you don't get the fun vibes of a win and everything that goes along with that, but you're also picking up a point, and it kind of hurts your draft seeding in that regard. So it was that was a lot of emotions in the last 10 minutes of that game. It was really up and down as we were doing everything. But yeah, that was oof. As Sean's saying, lose fun in regulation, not overtime. Yeah, that would be the ideal. But it was a fun loss. So we did at least get that from the team in this one. So do appreciate that. It's going to be a solo post game from me. RJ is unable to make it for this one, so you're all stuck with me as we talk about this game. But yeah, it was there was definitely good moments, and we're definitely going to touch on those good moments for the Kraken. But real quick before I do, I've got to thank wonderful sponsor Queen Anne Beer Hall for sponsoring the pod and the post game show, as they always do. And another reminder that our upcoming watch party on April 2nd, 7:30 for that Kraken game in Vancouver is going to be at their Moss Bay Hall location, and I'm really really looking forward to that one. We had such a fantastic time this past week with the first watch party. Cannot wait for the second watch party and to be able to watch that game with everybody. And another reminder, you can win Kraken tickets at the watch party. We were able to give away 2 tickets courtesy of the beer hall last game. We're going to be able to give away 2 more tickets at this upcoming watch party as well. So definitely want to let everybody know, and hopefully see you all there for that one. Light's going to kick us off with the super chat here. Appreciate it, Light. I'm not mad at it. Matty got a point. Power play and PK looked great, and 1 point isn't as bad as 2 for the tank. Now, that is true. If you are 100% on team tank, the 1 point is not as bad. I think going for the vibes of a win, especially a comeback win, you know, I think it would be good. But yes, 1 point is less than 2. 1 is in fact lower than 2, and that does help things as far as the draft seeding goes, especially because other teams that you're kind of vying for down there for the draft lottery odds seeding, they picked up wins today. So the Kraken only getting 1 point tonight, actually they're still making up ground, believe it or not. So there is that on the bright side. You mentioned Matty Beniers getting a point, and again, I just want to focus on this because I think that this has been such a cool development, cool sequence these last 2 games. Matty Beniers picking up another primary assist, picks up one in the previous game. Both times those primary assists are not him passing the puck. They are him shooting the puck at point blank range, diving in, going to the net front, being right there at the edge of the crease, shots coming in from further out. Goalie can't handle them. Matty Beniers' first one on the spot to get access to those rebounds, throws it back on net. Goalie makes the save, but it doesn't matter because it just creates another rebound, and the Kraken doing such a better job of jumping up, trying to get to rebounds, guys going to the net front. And this time, Jordan Eberle was able to be the one. Last game, it was Capo Caco, was able to take that Matty Beniers rebound and push it home and give the Kraken a big goal. And I think this is notable for two reasons. One, like I just said, the fact that the Kraken are kind of doing this where multiple players are going to the net front with urgency and with the intent to, hack and whack, as John Forsland would say it. And I think that that's a big development, and that's something definitely worth talking about. But I think even larger than that is the fact that Matty Beniers has been so involved in doing that both of these last two games. I think there's an element of it that is, this can't be coincidence. As his line mates change, he goes out there and he's kind of plays like this. I do think not having a Jaden Schwartz where the net front is going to kind of be his domain kind of makes Matty think, okay, I've got to kind of step up. Somebody needs to be in that spot. It's a spot that every line needs someone to be in. I guess it might as well be me. And to see Matty Beniers kind of take things to the interior in that way, to have that mentality, to have the strength to get there and set himself up in those spots, I think is a really cool development. It's something that I'm very happy to see kind of late in this season. The fact that it's working for him, he's picking up assists, I think is fantastic too. It's positive reinforcement for him going to the net front area. It's building his confidence for going to that net front area, and then hopefully that carries over into next season for him, because I think that that would be something that would be very beneficial for the Seattle Kraken. So very, very happy to see plays like that. It's not just that Matty Beniers picks up the point; it's how he picks up that assist that I think is very, very important. You mentioned the power play and the penalty kill. I maybe wouldn't say that the power play looked great tonight. I do know that they get the goal. They do get one goal on this in this one. The power play was still maybe a little rough for me at times. That being said, I thought they did a much better job of kind of having longer longer stretches of having possession in the offensive zone, while on the power play it wasn't kind of just like an endless cycle of them dumping the puck in or trying to get those zone entries, it not really working. Calgary clears, Kraken then burn 15 seconds trying to get back into the offensive zone. We didn't see that a ton tonight, which I do think is a positive. I think the movement on the power play goal that the Kraken do get in this one, the puck movement was excellent. I think it was absolutely perfect. That feed from Berkey, right? Berkey only gets the secondary assist here. So incredible, that feed over to McCann. Obviously, McCann's feed to Jaden Schwartz net front is very well deserving of praise and all of that stuff. But Berkey threads that needle through so many bodies in front to kind of throw it cross zone over to McCann. Really wanted to highlight that one from Berkey. And then, yeah, the penalty kill played fantastic. Spending a lot of time on the super chat. Sorry, but it said a lot in the super chat. I had to get through it all. But the penalty kill did do a great job in this one. And even at the end there, when you get the Nazem Kadri goal that puts, was that the, geez, they all happened so fast. The tying goal that tied the game at 2 for Calgary. That was still a sequence. Obviously, it's on the second part of the double minor for the high stick. Nazem Kadri gets it. Kraken have done an excellent job so far. They've killed off over 3 minutes of power play time consecutively. They're doing a great job. Lars gets banged up. He's back out there. Everybody's doing an incredible job. And even there with the goal from Nazem Kadri, that's just a good player, hitting a good shot. Like you still made it so that Nazem Kadri had to really snipe that puck past Joey Decord. It was not one where it was like kind of a PK failure. It was just one of those where a good player goes out there and makes a play. And so I think even in that situation, the PK still looked good. Like with another super chat. Sorry, I spent so much time on that first one. Can I throw a hand grenade and point out we didn't see this effort last season, and the worst effort guys last year may have been traded this year? And so you are throwing in a little bit of a hand grenade there. Yes, this won't deny that. I think that, yes, the effort level has been better this year. I think that there was lessons learned by the player group and the leadership group last year that they didn't want to repeat this year. I think that that's part of this. I think having some more maybe younger voices with another year of experience and in there trying to accomplish certain things has probably also helped. I think the coaching staff being different helps. I think that, Dan Bylsma is not the kind of guy that's just going to let effort levels late in a season, in a season where they know they're not going to make the playoffs, go. He's going to be somebody who's going to actively keep his players engaged in each and every game. He's going to be challenging them. I think what we're seeing from the team in the front office has also been that with the call-ups of Yanni Newman. Yanni Newman staying around as long as he has. It's sending a message that, hey, even though we're not really playing to make the playoffs right now, we're still playing for something. We're still playing for development. And hey, guess what? All you vets on this roster will replace you, right? Like, we will call somebody up. We will get somebody out there. And hey, look, Yanni Newman, he's looking pretty good. He's putting up points. He's scoring goals. He's going to take one of your jobs, right? Like, that's not necessarily being explicitly said to some guys on the Kraken, but that is one of the messages of the actions of the front office here is, hey, we're going to call up these young guys and see what they have, because if they look better than you, then that's who we're running with next year. And so I think that that's been kind of part of it, is that there's been more motivation because of the actions of the front office to kind of keep more players engaged through this later part of the season. I think the young guys are, of course, going to be engaged because they have something to prove. They want to go out there and excel and do better. And I think that the coaching staff is probably it feels like a more hands-on, get in players' faces kind of coaching staff than what was around last year. And I think that that also kind of helps to keep that engagement level from the players. And like I said, I also think that the players probably don't want to just repeat what happened last year either. It was brutal. It was really tough to be around. And I think that they don't want that. Um, so I think it's a lot of things kind of going on there. But I also think that, you may have in certain situations had some addition by subtraction there as well. I won't kind of deny that I do think that that was part of it. Uh, but I think a lot more of it has to do with everything else that I mentioned. Dave with the super chat, really appreciate it, Dave. Team Tank, but dang, what heart from our boys. That sound of the ping from the post from Newman was so damn loud. It really was. Yanni Newman going out there and trying, to score again. His shot is just so electric. It's just unlike anything we've ever seen from a player in a Seattle Kraken sweater. Really love seeing that from Yanni Newman. Love the continued, effort from him. Maybe more of a quieter game from that line. I mean, it was definitely a quieter game for the line from the last time. Maybe a quieter game from Yanni Newman outside of that one very loud ping, as you mentioned there, Dave. But I still think that there were some positives out there, and he continues to, kind of impress me with his 5-on-5 play. We obviously know what he can do to the power play and what a, focal point of the power play he can be. But his 5-on-5 play has definitely been growing and excelling. And I was really impressed by that tonight, even though that line as a whole, 5-on-5, was not as strong as they were last time out. This very much felt like a game for the Shane Wright line, where that line was really driving possession, especially first and second periods. That Shane Wright line was doing a fantastic job of pushing possession into the Calgary zone, really pressuring Dustin Wolf. They had, they're still trying to figure out some chemistry there. I don't know why Shane Wright and Jordan Eberle, like, they had so much chemistry when Shane was called up last year. Kind of feels like a lot of that has been lost. They're like very close. Like, you can tell they're thinking on the same wavelength, but then they'll go to execute something and the execution is just kind of not there between the two of them. But once it clicks, the plays that you can tell they're wanting to make, that they're both seeing for each other, are going to be, it's going to be spectacular, and they're going to score. They're going to put up points and get those, just play well together. And I can't wait to see that from the two of them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be, I mean, we've seen it in the past, right? Like last year. I think it'll be really great to see that from them. But this was a really good game for that line, and for them to be able to drive and push possession. Great game from the fourth line as well. They were also incredible drivers of possession in this one. That fourth line really doing great stuff. Obviously, Ty Karche with the great goal. Mikey Asimont just continues to be a stud on that fourth line, really kind of making up for the loss of Turbo there in a lot of ways. So really fantastic game from them. Looking over at chat, Andrew, wish we dropped that in regulation, to be honest. Certainly if you're worried about the draft positioning, that would have been the more ideal scenario there. If you're going to losing in regulations, cleaner, a little less heartbreaking, and it certainly helps come draft time. I hate playing the Flames. Flames are just such a tough team to play against, right? Even when they're not good. I mean, this year they're obviously vying for a playoff spot, and so you could make the argument that they're at least decent. But even in the years where this Calgary Flames team is not good, they always find a way, right? They always seem to have a goaltender. They're always going to play you tough. There's Pospisil always running around doing whatever he's doing, right? And it's just, oh, it is brutal having to be in a division with them and having to play them several times throughout the course of a year. It really does feel like they're the most exhausting games afterwards for us, the fans, right? Just forget about the emotional roller coaster we were on late in this one. You just feel exhausted watching this Calgary Flames team because they're not like super skilled. They're not going to go out there and do that kind of stuff. They're going to make the game look boring a lot of the time, and then they're going to do something that's just going to piss you off. And you just have to deal with that on top of it all. It is very difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It is difficult. But you felt like such a letdown for it to end up like that. It was your head tough one. Not sorry we got a point. I like to see the resilience. No quit. There was definitely no quit. Love seeing that goalie pull goal. Like I said, I've already kind of highlighted it, but just the fact that the Kraken 2 games in a row have a sequence where multiple players going to that net front, banging away at rebounds, getting those opportunities. Just incredible to see that from them. And, I think it takes it up a notch, the fact that we are seeing that this late in the season, like we talked earlier, from a team that is not going to make the playoffs, and they're still out there battling like that, trying to score goals like that, trying to build something that they can hopefully then carry over the offseason into next season. I think it's very impressive, and it's something worth highlighting as much as we can here late in the season, because I do think that it's worthy of it. Stratic, I was feeling good until the Kraken tied it up late. Then I felt hope. Yeah, that could be, something that's maybe going on there. No, no question, no question. Yeah, it's just one of those. It's just a tough game. There's just no way around it. It's just a tough game there at the end. It was back and forth, and unfortunately, yeah, the Kraken kind of used up all their magic to tie up the game, and then again get that incredible sequence just a moment before the Calgary scores. That is as good a look as you can kind of draw up 3-on-3 overtime. What the Kraken were able to do there, they got their chance. It was just unfortunate that they weren't able to score on it. Dave with another super chat. Appreciate it, Dave. Really do. How about Mikey tonight? He was looking incredible. Can we keep him, please? Or does he take away a cheaper option for Winterton? Mikey Asamont, yeah, if they were to re-sign him, because I do think he brings a lot. Like I said, he brings a lot of energy. I like that he shoots the puck. I do like the speed that he brings. I think that is something necessary. Look, bottom line is you're we'll see if they bring up Winterton later on this season. But yeah, I mean, you're either looking at having Asamont or Cartier on the 4th line, and then the other side being Ryan Winterton. If you go in that direction, it's possible that they just kind of like what these guys are bringing here late in the season. You bring back a Mikey Asamont, you stick him on the 4th line, you have Ty Cartier on the other side, and you just go, look, we're actually kind of set. And Ryan Winterton just kind of has to deal with that, because you're just going for the lineup that's going to give you the best chance to win. I think that is also a possibility. But yes, if you're talking about keeping Mikey Asamont, that's a significant move for the Kraken, in my opinion, because you are really re-upping another guy that's going to be on the 4th line. Doesn't necessarily kill penalties in the same way that Turbo did. So you're really kind of just keeping him for that energy on the 4th line, which again is fantastic to watch. It's something that's very needed. I think good teams have players like him on them, like for sure. But it does mean that you're then not running Ty Cartier. So if you're a Ty Cartier fan, you probably don't want that. If you're a Ryan Winterton fan, you're not running Ryan Winterton there, so you probably don't want that. So it is one of those kinds of situations. Now, all things being equal, if the Kraken want to be a playoff team next year, I think Mikey Asamont's probably the best of those 3 players. Like, just straight up, he has obviously more NHL experience than the other guys, and there's a component to that. But I just think that his speed, his tenacity, his willingness to shoot the puck as much as he does, the games like tonight that he plays, I think that there is value in that. I think that as long as you can bring him back at a reasonable rate, you don't want to be overpaying a guy that you know is just going to be on your fourth line. I think as long as you can, if you can bring him back at a reasonable rate, I say go ahead and do that, and let everybody else try to fight for that other side on the fourth line, and that spot on the other side on the fourth line. And you just go that way, and it's better to have like too many options than not enough. But I do think that Mikey Asamont is better than Ty Cartier, and he is better than Ryan Winterton right now. So I will definitely agree with you there on that front, Dave. Shannon playing with heart for sure. They definitely did. This was a great kind of effort loss from the Kraken. They definitely showed it, especially late there. I mean, they did a great job tying the game early, and then going out, getting ahead, not losing their cool, giving up stuff late. I thought they did a good job of coming to Joey's defense with the whole Pospisil snowing him and everything there at the end. Like, love seeing that from Brandon Montour and Riker Evans and Mikey Asamont. Like, they all get in there and everything. I think that all of that was really great. There was definitely some good stuff from this one. There's definitely a lot of positives to take away from this game, despite the fact that they do lose it in overtime. Sean, hate that loser point. Does anybody actually feel better that it went to overtime? Sabres won, Preds won. I mean, the fact that those two teams won does mean, like I said, you are still making up ground because you only got the 1 point. So there is definitely that. Kylie, yay, fun game, get a point. Calgary gets 2 points to keep in the hunt. Hopefully that's the nail in the coffin for Utah to catch up. It very well could be, Kylie. I mean, Calgary definitely needed it to kind of get back in there. I do think that this is we're kind of seeing the end for Utah probably down in this next week or so. I think that'll probably be it for them. Not officially, not mathematically, but realistically. B, sucks that Joey had what I thought was a really great game and he's not rewarded for it on the stat sheet or with a win. Yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of Joey games this year, unfortunately, right? I mean, he'll just play fantastic, make some elite level saves. I mentioned the Kraken on that the penalty kill earlier. Joey does such a great job on the penalty kill. I mean, the Kraken have done a better job on the penalty kill of taking away passing lanes and things like that, but they're doing that at the expense of giving shooters some time and space to really try to take shots. That's why you end up with that Nazem Kadri goal that ends up being the tying goal for Calgary in the third period. That's because like they're worried about taking away the player and puck movement. They're going to give up those shots because they can trust Joey, and Joey vast majority of the time is able to make the save there. I think Nazem Kadri is just he's too good a player to leave at a spot like that. That's for sure. But you look at that penalty kill, they get the 3 minutes of penalty killed, and a lot of that is because of Joey Daccord and what he's able to do there. And yeah, it's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to get as many wins as he probably has played well enough to deserve. And then also, just numbers wise, games like this have been rough, and there's been too many of them this season. I agree on that. Daniel, sucks that the first third period lead we've blown all year had to come to this very hateable Flames team. Except for you, Dustin Wolf, still love you from your Everett days. It is kind of hard to hate Dustin Wolf. That being said, he starts beating us every year. We'll probably find a way to do it. But then if everybody just has to keep talking about Gilroy, California, love Gilroy, love garlic, but it's you're overplaying the storyline, Kraken Hockey Network. But yeah, it does stink. That being said, how great is it that it took this long for the Kraken to be in a spot where they do blow a lead like that? You know what I mean? Like it's pretty incredible that the Kraken kind of made it this far into the season, given how rough and difficult the season has been at times, that this has been the case for them. So I do appreciate that. Edward with the super chat, really appreciate it. Edward, hope you're doing well. Win or lose, I appreciate the vibes around the team are so much better than last year. Let's go Kraken. They are. And I talked about it at the jump, right? There's a lot of reasons why I think the vibes are better this year, whether it's the coaching staff being more engaged with the players, whether it's the player base, the player leadership group not wanting a repeat of last year, the young guys kind of coming in, and the message the front office is sending of, hey, we'll replace you with these young guys. These young guys look pretty good. They are ready to start taking NHL jobs. wake up, because this could be you that goes out to make space for them. I think that it's all been a very positive kind of how they're playing down the stretch here, and how they're doing. I think it is definitely good. Christian, I like the boys scoring, but boo on the loser points. Plus Joey getting scored on the breakaway OT game winner. It is tough. It is tough. Like we just talked about it, Joey, poor Joey, and in all of this, it really is tough. I'm 100% with Sarah on the roller coaster ride that this one was just so crazy. Edward felt like the momentum shifted with that double minor. It did some. I mean, the Kraken were, of course, able to come back later on. Double minors are just so difficult. You know what I mean? Like, again, the Kraken play fantastic. Joey plays fantastic. The PK plays fantastic for 3 minutes straight. It's just it's such a long time to be playing down a man. It's just such a long time to have to be in that mindset of having to play mistake-free hockey, right? Not being able to leave your spot for a second, not being able to lose track of somebody for a second because they have that extra attacker out there, and the mental load of being out there and having to kill that much penalty time is just very significant. And I think that they did a great job. Like I said, I really do give credit to Nazem Kadri on that goal. Not an easy goal to score. He really did earn that one. But yeah, it was definitely one of those where I think that it's not surprising to me that then Calgary is able to go ahead shortly after that, just because it's a backbreaker when you're out there and you've been in that situation. And then even still, like I said, it's almost worse that Nazem Kadri just kind of scores a good legit goal on you, rather than it being a mental mistake because you're like, I did everything right. Right. I went through this super stressful, one of the most difficult things in a hockey game to do, and we did everything right, and it didn't matter. Right. And so I think that there was an element of the team still reeling from that when you get the Anderson goal. And I think that that's kind of what happened there. Daniel, why do we hit so many posts? Just I don't know. Maybe they're red, they're kind of glossy and shiny, and it just draws the Kraken players' eyes. Maybe they're just kind of all like cats out there, and they're just like, "Ooh, I like that." And they just go for it. I don't know, but yeah, they are definitely absolutely brutal when it comes to all of that stuff. Lindsay Hockey Feed, Fiend, this wasn't the birthday present I asked for. I am sorry, Lindsay. This is, yeah, wouldn't be a great birthday present in this one. Apologies about that, but happy birthday. Hope you were able to have a good rest of the day around the Kraken game. And hey, there was still some positives, including us being able to talk about our favorite goal, as Striatic's asking right there next. And I think it is going to be probably the game tying goal there late when the Kraken had the net empty. Again, I've talked about it a couple times already this post game, but just having so many players crash the net in that situation, especially Matty Beniers being that first one to get that play on the rebound. It's just something I've wanted to see from this team for so long. Seeing them play that way, seeing Matty Beniers play that way, I just think it's fantastic. Shout out to the Ty Cartier goal, just a great clean snipe to beat Dustin Wolf. That's always fun and impressive. And yeah, on the first goal, I mean, I guess like I said earlier, the thing for me on that first goal on the power play is that pass from Berkey, threading it through all those bodies in front to get it cross zone to Jared McCann, who then makes his own incredible feed over to the back door to Jaden Schwartz. But I just think that the meaning and what it means, kind of moving forward for guys, that last goal for the Kraken is my favorite. That one is the best one. Dave with another third super chat. Really appreciate it. Dave with the hat trick of the $10 super chats tonight. Really appreciate that, Dave. If you had to guess, Dylan, what would you think the exit interviews at the end of the season on the state of the team and the coaching staff would be? Oh man, it's a little bit of a loaded question for a solo post game. Not gonna lie. I think that they're going to be a lot different than last year, right? Last year there was a lot of players just kind of unable to answer the question of kind of what went wrong this year, right? Like what went wrong, and they were just, I don't know, right? Why couldn't you guys score more? I don't know. There was a lot of that uncertainty, a lot of guys saying things like, I don't know. I don't think we're going to get that this year. I think, you're going to get stuff more along the lines of, it's a shame that we couldn't do this a little bit more frequently, or that we struggled with consistency here. But I think that that's a huge difference between, not knowing what you need to be doing better or what you weren't doing well versus, okay, we had some bright moments. We have to be better about doing that more frequently. We have to be better with our consistency. We have to improve on that. Or we made this mistake too many times this year, and that's something that we have to change, right? We didn't get up the ice quick enough this season. We weren't playing with enough speed. Hearing things like that, which I think, realistically could be what we hear from them. I think that's really significant because it shows that the message from the new coaching staff kind of got through to them, that it was a kind of learning year. It was a year of building a foundation of the idea of this is how we want to play and all of that stuff. And ideally, you'd want them to actually play that way and have more success than they've had. But it's at least something that you can build off of moving into next year. You're going to have that kind of familiarity with everything and kind of know the things that you need to work on. What scenarios were difficult for you? Okay, we can really start to address those because we don't have to address the more fundamental sides of the game. Whereas last year with those exit interviews and not really knowing what went wrong, how do you build off of that? There's nothing to build off of there. There's nowhere to go. You can't use anything. You can't use I don't know as a springboard into something better. Whereas this year, if you're like, hey, we didn't play with enough speed, you can use that as a springboard of we did a good job of, cutting off other teams in the defensive zone, but we weren't doing a good enough job of getting up the ice quickly. You can springboard off of that to, hey, let's get up the ice quickly. Like we know we're taking care of things in the defensive zone. We now just need to get up the ice quickly. That's just an example. I think that they haven't taken care of things in the defensive zone. That's more so what they need to worry about. But being able to focus on things like that, to have a more clear-cut answer, have something that you need to work and improve on, is going to be extremely different than what the experience was at exit interviews last season. And that would be something that I would kind of hope to hear from them, and I think is something that we could hear from them as well. So I that's kind of where I'm at there. But good question, Dave. Definitely. And I appreciate all the super chats tonight. Really, really do. Chuck, I was resigned to the tank loss, but then after his goal, was chirping at the lonely Kraken fan in the Borgen jersey. I really wanted to beat them. So that late tying goal was fun. That was annoying. I'm with you, Chuck. I'm absolutely with you. That was what a heck of a celebration. That's one of those you love it if that guy's on your team, if he's gonna point out like visiting fans and just kind of give them the business there. You love that if he's on your team. If you're a fan of any of the other 31 teams, you hate that guy. Like that guy's the most annoying guy in the National Hockey League to you, right? That was a definite moment, and yes, that was definitely one of those ones where it was like, you know what, I would love to wipe the smug expression off that guy's face. Like let's get out there, Kraken. Let's go. Let's get at it. I'm with you there on that, Chuck. That is that is good for sure. Sean KG +1 to a better effort level. While losing is better for draft position, the players not checking out is even more important for the team's success. Agree with that. And like I said, there's no checkout tonight, and there really kind of hasn't been. So I do appreciate that. Brooke didn't get to watch today, but glad there was some effort and maybe someone in a Borgen jersey. Shout out Will Borgen. Brooke's always going to make sure. It doesn't matter if Brooke sees the game. Brooke will definitely be here to shout out Will Borgen. Appreciate that, Brooke. And yeah, we just talked about the scenario, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Definitely. No, Boromir, no. I love the name. Enough of this tanking stuff. You play to win the game. You can't build a winning culture off a team that looks forward to giving up at the end of the season. That's locker room cancer. It is, and that's why the difference between this year and last year has been so significant. I think, from a taking perspective, the fact that, it's very much an outside the locker room thing. It's definitely something that nobody in the locker room is going to be thinking about or talking about. And the fact that, the front office has made those moves to bring up the young players kind of signals that. The fact that those young players are getting the ice time from the coaching staff that they're getting signals that the team is they understand that playoffs are not going to happen for them, right? They're not going to like bury their head in the sand and be like, no, we can still do this or whatever. But they understand that these are still valuable moments. It's still important to try, and it's still important that you go out there and you give that effort, and that you teach those young players to give that effort, and that those young players are able to start learning lessons at the National Hockey League level, so that next year when the games do matter again for you with that opening night game, you're going to be in there. So whereas last year it very much kind of just felt like everybody was just trying to get it over with, right? Like it was just like, and we were kind of that way too, right? Like it was just kind of brutal and you just wanted it to end. Like last season was just so, I don't know, but I don't feel that way about this year. Like covering the team, going through nights like this, I'm not wishing for it to just kind of be over the way I was last year, where it was just like, please just make this stop. It's painful. This year, like we're still able to come on here. I'm 35 minutes into a solo post game show and I can feel my energy still high because of what the Kraken were able to do. And so I definitely appreciate that from everybody. Edward, anybody get a minor case of deja vu watching white versus black hockey game 2 nights in a row? If you know, you know. Yes, that is definitely and if you know, you know. Appreciate that kind of shout out, Edward. For those of you who don't know, I will let everybody in. I do want more people to know. Sorry if you thought you were all going to be an exclusive club of knowing. But last night I did have my Patreon prospect chat stream where we watched the Firebirds, who were in Calgary for their last 2 games against the Calgary Wranglers. Calgary Wranglers wearing very similar black jerseys with Blasty on them, compared as the Flames did tonight. And boy, I was really stressed about, on post game today, calling the Kraken the Firebirds because of watching those Firebirds games and doing that prospect chat with everybody. And then the Calgary Flames come out wearing the black jerseys just like the Wranglers do. And I was just like, you guys, they must have heard. Like who snitched from the prospect chat last night where I kept calling the Firebirds Kraken and then was worried about calling the Kraken Firebirds tonight? Who went to the Calgary Flames and snitched and was like, hey, you guys, can you wear the jersey that looks almost identical to the Wranglers jersey, please, just so we can get Dylan to get tripped up? That being said, knock on wood, have not been tripped up so far tonight. But that was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was just like, oh no, this is bad. We're in the same exact jerseys. I'm never gonna recover from this. never gonna do this. Let's see. Yeah, so a lot of people talking about like kind of the players of the team tanking. Yeah, nobody on this team is tanking. Nobody in the player group is tanking. Definitely don't think that that's happening at all. It is just very much one of those things that from the outside, and we obviously talked about it a ton on the deep dive yesterday. We dived deep into the topic of tanking and what's at stake for the Kraken and what it ultimately means for them, and it has its merits in the sense that it is a significant difference. If you're going to be bad enough to be like a top 4 team versus a team that's bad enough to miss the playoffs, but you're picking like 8, 9, 10, like just you go back through like every draft, it's a significant difference in the level of player that you're getting there. And so I very much understand where everybody comes from, that kind of looks for that and kind of wants it to happen. It is still something that if you are pro tank, you're still doing it with the intention of your team getting better in the long run. You're just trying to make them the most of a bad situation, and I understand the people on the other side. You don't watch sports to watch guys try to lose, right? You don't root for a team hoping for them to lose. Like that's just against the very idea of competition, which is what sports is, right? Like we're watching professional competition. Nobody goes into a competition hoping to lose. Like that's just not how it's done, right? And so it's a very complicated problem or discussion to have, and it is something that is very difficult for teams like the Kraken, communities that follow the Kraken, fan bases for teams like the Kraken that are in this spot. And it's just a way that the system is really set up around all of this, is just that it is one where it does benefit you. If you're going to be a bad team, it benefits you to then be the worst team. And that's unfortunate that that's the way it's set up, but that is the system that we're operating in. Kylie, so how exactly does a tank occur since they're the ones playing and in control of if we win or lose? I think that's what I don't get. Lol. Organizations that tank, look at a San Jose, look at a Chicago, right? The really legit bad teams. The way that tanks work from like an organizational standpoint, because the players are never going to tank, right? They're all playing for jobs it's very important that they go out there and they compete and they give it their all each and every night. So players will never get on board with it. The way teams and organizations tank to rebuild and go through that process is what we've seen from San Jose and Chicago these last couple of years, which is you just actively make a bad team. You just, the moment you've got some guy who's playing well, you flip him for future assets. And you just have a bad roster. You just actively choose to not bring in good free agents. You actively choose to, trade away players that are playing well for you. You're good players. And that's how organizations actively tank, right? And go through that rebuilding process. And it's extremely tough on fan bases. It's tough on locker rooms. It's tough all the way around. But that's what it is you just actively go out there and you field a bad team. Or you ice a bad team, I guess, in this situation, because it's hockey. But it is very much like a roster construction thing, because that the coaching staff and the players are not going to be on board with it. So you just have to basically give the worst roster that you can out there. It's tough. It is tough. It's a very strange thing, and like I said, it's the messed up system and world that we're in. But that is how it works, and the results speak for itself in that it's worth doing. Like, if you are bad, it is worth doing to go all the way with it. And that is something. Edward, that's one of the things I hated about Hackstall. Never felt any vet's spot was in danger, no matter how bad they played. Culture shift is so important. Yeah, I think the lack of accountability last year that we were kind of always talking about and feeling, and it was very frustrating to, I know, a lot of people in the fan base. Doesn't really feel like that's been the case this year. We've seen players benched at various times. We've seen the young guys benched, right? Like, just to, hey, focus on this, go learn, go develop, get better. But for right now, you got to sit and watch the game. You need to reset. And I think that's very important. And then, like I said, having the young guys come up now from the front office, making the decision to bring up those young players, but also the coaching staff making the decision to give those young players significant ice time, sends a huge message to the more veteran players in the. And I really, really think that's important, and I love seeing it. It's just so significantly different than last year. I love doing that. Dave, let it all hang out, Dylan. Tonight is your show. Let your feelings and knowledge flow through you like the force. Lol. Love it. Love the Star Wars reference. Huge Star Wars guy. I'm doing my best. But definitely love it. Edward, Fire Kraken versus the Flame Wranglers. Flame Wranglers is actually a pretty dope name, not gonna lie. But that is yes, that was basically what was kind of going through my mind. I was really having to keep it straight in there. It was it was definitely something. And then yes, from Lindsay Hockey Fiend, the last deep dive podcast was like watching our dads argue. Definitely was towards the end from Kylie. Yeah, it's not often that we'll get that kind of maybe dug in or heated or really on board with just no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna kind of give a little here, or I'm not going to seed ground on this point. I just really firmly believe this, and that's just it. RJ and I do that a lot in our personal lives together. We've always enjoyed debating each other. It's just been kind of what we do and how we hang out. But it's not often that we kind of we try to not do that on the podcast and things like that. But this one was definitely one that was pretty heated for us, for sure. And so apologies if it was a tough listen there at the end when we were talking about Pedersen. But I think we both made our cases, and we'll see what ends up happening there with everybody. And yeah, Coach on KG, if you want to see tanking, look at the trades Buffalo made before and during the McDavid Eichel draft year. Insane, some stuff. Like we have definitely gone through cycles where in the NHL we have seen some teams really do the organizational tanking thing, as far as it's definitely. And then Kylie asking, okay, so how exactly does that work in terms of people being team tank right now in terms of losing games? Basically the fan base that have labeled themselves team team tank, right? And then I'll get to Boromir's question next. The part of the fan base that's labeled themselves team tank. This goes back to year one in the chat, and a lot of it was kind of tongue in cheek, and I think it still is kind of tongue in cheek. It's again, you just it's something to celebrate when the team loses, is that you can at least celebrate that you're getting positive draft position. And I think that that's most of what it is just it's people trying to make the best of the bad situation. It's just trying to give you something to be excited about, something to look forward to, because one of the benefits of if you are going to lose, if you are going to go through a taking process, if you're going to be drafting higher, if you're going to not be a playoff team, is you want to look forward to young players, you want to look forward to prospects, you want to look forward to the draft. Like, that is a significant part of what fan bases do when their teams are bad. It's what gives you hope and gives you a reason to really keep caring about the organization while the organization is not successful. And so I think that it's just kind of become like a thing where people just do it and they celebrate and they get to have fun. And it's one of those, like, you can celebrate wins because they're wins, and then you can celebrate the loss because, hey, you know what, it's going to give us a fun, young, exciting player that we can then go and root for and watch as they grow and develop, the same way that we've done that with, Berkeley Catton kind of being the most recent one. But, Yanni Newman with all the people that followed him while he was playing in Finland, and then with the Firebirds this year, and then now with the Kraken, to be able to see that journey is fun and exciting. And, being able to, draft Shane Wright and go through the process with Shane Wright and see how that develops, and adding a player like Shane Wright to the organization that came about from, all of this, and from losing the last game of the season. You end up getting Shane Wright in year one. That was the difference maker for you. And so it is one of those kind of, like, it's like an inside joke, like you're saying. Yeah, it is kind of that way. I'll get to your super chat in a second, Dave. I just want to, while I'm on this kind of thought process, I want to mention Boromir's question here, which is, what are some of the results that make tanking worthwhile? It's just better players, right? It's having a higher draft pick in the draft, and being able to then select better players from it. There is, drafts are no guarantees. I really go over this a lot in the podcast yesterday. RJ and I both go over this a lot, and we really kind of break it down. But there is no guarantees in drafts, but players drafted higher, they're able to make an impact much quicker, and they're able to make a much more substantial impact on organizations. And if you look at all the teams that have had sustained success in the NHL, really in the salary cap era, going back to 2005, almost all of the Stanley Cup winning teams, almost all of the teams that have been, good top teams in the league for long stretches of time, their cores are cores built out of being bad for several seasons, drafting in the top 5 several times, accumulating those players, and then going out there and becoming good teams with them. You can literally just pick any of them and point to it. I think of the Penguins kind of being first in that sequence, and Flower, Malkin, Stahl, Crosby, all top 5 picks. Really all top 3 picks there with them. Chicago, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, top 3 picks, and then being able to build around them. You think of Tampa, Steven Stamkos, first overall pick, Victor Hedman, a second overall pick, and you're able to make things work and build around those guys as them being part of your future there. Just being able to do that and have that sustained success, it really does come from having a core group of players that are superstars. And the bottom line is, superstars, vast majority, more than not, 9 times out of 10, are coming from that top part of the draft. And so it's one of those that that is what makes tanking worthwhile. If you're a team that needs to start over fresh, you start over fresh by going out there and trying to get yourself a Connor Bedard in Chicago's case, or a Macklin Celebrini in San Jose's case, and then you surround them with some other young talent that you get and draft high, and then you move on from there, and you try to do it from there. So, but that is why teams do it. It's because it is the most proven method in the salary cap era to get yourself a good team. And Vegas maybe took a different route, but they also had a different route to getting into the NHL. I think they're like the most notable example of not doing that. But they were able to go out there and get a Jack Eichel and make a trade for a Jack Eichel and get a superstar player that was available by trade for the first time since Joe Thornton in 1998, right? So like it was the early 2000s. So that was when he was drafted. So like that's just kind of why it is what it is and why that's the case. Dave with the super chat. Apologies for making you wait there, Dave, but appreciate the fourth super chat of the night. That deep dive was absolutely fire, and it belonged on Kraken Hockey Network. If you all haven't seen it on YouTube or heard the podcast, then you're missing out. Our boys are legends. Really appreciate the kind words and the shout out there, Dave. Really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. It means a lot hearing how much people enjoy the stuff that RJ and I do. Edward, yeah, it's not real tank if we don't have Tank Commander Ty in chat leading the way. Hope he's doing well wherever he is. I did run into him at a game earlier this season. He is doing well. But yes, that was a huge part of it was Tank Commander Ty season 1. Yeah, just for some more lore for everybody here, as we work towards the end of post game. Ty was a member of the ECH community, and season 1 was a brutal season for the Kraken. Did not win many games. Definitely did not win many games at home, and one of the things that we were all rooting for down the stretch was for Ty to see a win at home, and I believe Ty finished the season 0-17, went to 17 of the 41 home games that opening year and did not see a victory. And it was very disappointing, but it definitely gave us all something to root for. But as we transitioned from looking for wins to looking ahead to the draft and seeing if the Kraken were, who the Kraken could potentially draft there, as Team Tank kind of first formed, as everybody kind of transitioned their rooting interests over, Ty really kind of led that march just because he never saw any wins. it was definitely rough. It was definitely rough. And Kachan KG there, as a Team Tank member, I want the Kraken to have sustainable long-term success and win a cup. The most reliable way to do that is to draft multiple elite players who are available at the top of the draft. And yeah, it is just kind of how that the way it is. Unfortunately, like I said, it's really one of those more like blame the system. It's really a system defect, more than anything. Let's see. I think I was just confused since we're such a young team, so the idea of the tank seemed premature. San Jose, Chicago have been around a while. Yeah, it's just all teams go through ebbs and flows. They go through times where they're competitive. I mean, Chicago won 3 Stanley Cups. San Jose was competitive and elite level for a good 10 years. But as that good core and solid core that you have leaves, you then got to recycle and go through the process of building back up again. Doesn't really have to do with how long, say, the franchise has been around. It's more so just that core group of players that you're building around. The core for the Kraken being like Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, Berkeley Catton, Capo Caco, guys like that. Yanni Newman now. So good stuff there. Light, I don't know if it's been mentioned, but I love that Matty and Shane had 40 plus combined minutes time on ice. I think that's probably how next year goes with Shane in the top 6. I do think that's how it goes, Light. And yes, it had not been mentioned, worthy of a mention. We are seeing that, like I said earlier, right? Coaching staff is giving the ice time to the young guys. We're seeing that stuff. Obviously, the Chandler Stevenson injury kind of helps things, but this is the future of the team. This is the future of the team, kind of what we're seeing here. Chuck with the super chat coming in late. Oh man, Chuck, this has been another one where me and RJ really dig in and we really fight about this one. So you're really throwing this in. Although I guess RJ's not here. But Chuck with the super chat, appreciate it, Chuck. The PWHL uses the gold draft system. Is it not in the interest of fans to have a system that rewards winning? Beyond tradition, is there some money angle why the NHL wouldn't want to use it? Sports leagues in general, most fan bases in general, but I will say hockey people, whether they're fans or they work in the NHL, the number one thing they hate, and this largely applies to humans and people in general out there. The number one thing that hockey fans and hockey people within the world of hockey hate is this thing called change. And switching to a gold draft system, which for those who don't know, It's a system in which once you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs or you remove yourself from playoff contention, every game that you play, every point that you earn from that point on goes towards establishing the draft order. So the team that has the most points at the end of the season, those gold draft points, ends up getting the first overall pick. So it incentivizes you to continue to win games, to continue to go out there and try to continue to field a good team. Because once you're out of the playoffs, you want to be winning as many games as possible. I think there's many reasons why this won't work. I've talked about them in the past. I think you destroy the trade deadline because if you're a bad team, if you're like San Jose this year, you're probably keeping Zetterlund, you're probably keeping a Granlund, right? Like you're keeping players like that. And I think that, because you're going to be trying to win those games late, you're going to remove yourself from playoff contention. You're going to go out there and you're going to try to win games. And while that does lead to more competitive teams and things like that, it leads to less excitement around trade deadlines. You don't get teams loading up the way that they do right now. That's been something that concerns me about the gold draft system. I'm against it for that reason. I don't know that like we see like the Kraken trade in Oliver Bjorkstrand and get a first round pick back for him, right? Like I don't know that those things happen under a gold draft system, and so I think that that's part of it. But I think a big reason why there's been a lot of resistance to it is also just the fact that it would be different. Sports has worked under this idea that bad teams, to even things out, to make it fair, right? This is all done in the interest of making things fair. This is why draft systems in all major sports leagues are set up this way. Bad teams get high draft picks so that they can eventually get good players and then become good teams. And that's just like the natural order of things, right? And so that the haves are not the always haves and the have-nots are not the always have-nots. That's why drafts in professional sports operate the way they do, where the worst teams get the highest picks and end up with those future star players. I think, obviously the NHL wants to have a salary cap. They didn't want to have a league where just a handful of teams could go out there MLB style, baseball style, buy up all the talent in free agency, and then just have ludicrously high payrolls, while other teams that don't have the money to do that are just kind of stuck forever languishing, right? Like there's a reason why they have the salary cap there, to kind of dissuade tanking. That's why we have the lottery system. It's so that even if you are just the worst team out there, if you decide to really just not field a competitive team, you might not end up with the first overall pick, right? Like that's why the lottery system exists, is to kind of lessen the incentive to be as bad as possible. You don't want true races to the bottom, and that's why the lottery system exists. I think it's a very complicated issue because you do want to reward bad teams. You do want those fan bases to have a shot at getting good players. You don't want to say like all young players to be free agents, and so each year there's the draft class are just free agents, and you want them to enter the league, and just whoever can pay them the most gets them. You don't want a situation like that. You want teams to that you want bad teams to have the chance to get good players. You want those fan bases to have good players to root for. It's a very complicated situation around all of this, and the gold draft system is something that a lot of people like. I'm not one of those people. RJ is one of those people. He's somebody who does feel very passionate about the idea of going out there and rewarding winning and rewarding trying. I understand that. I just think that I would rather than try to come up with a different system that more radically alters the fundamental way in which drafting works. And I don't know that like I have a great way of doing that, but for me, like gold drafting feels more like you're still kind of treating symptoms rather than the root cause, which is you either want a league and to run your league in a way that bad teams can get good players and go from there, and in which case you can do the NFL route where it's just straight up the worst team gets the first pick, or you can do what NBA and NHL do, which there's a lottery for it, and you either kind of go in that direction, or I've floated the idea on Red Glares, our Patreon podcast, before of kind of creating a separate monetary system, and then based on how well your team does, you can you get a larger money pool and kind of go more like how the MLB, Major League Baseball, handles international signings for young players, where you kind of have like a set amount each year that you get, and then maybe that scales based off of how teams finish in the standing. So bad teams are able to spend more money to go out there and acquire young players. And so you'll get players that are going to say, want to play for a winning team. Okay, but they're going to take less money to do so. You're going to have other players who want to get paid, and they're going to go to a bad team because they want to get paid. I think that that's a potential option, but it would still be within limits and therefore a little bit more fair. You couldn't just have like one super wealthy team buying up everybody. You'd have caps on it. I think it would also be interesting to see that be a system where you're able to carry over in like 3-year segments. So like you can carry over unspent money for like a year or two. So like everybody knows Gavin McKenna is coming, not in this next upcoming draft, but the following one. You can stash for like 2 years out all of your money and really try to go and make a run for Gavin McKenna. How would you make a run for Gavin McKenna? Not only would you want to save up that money to try to go and get him, but you'd also want to make your team look like a destination. And so it would drive and incentivize teams to try to be as good as possible, because you would want to try to lure those good young players to your team. And they might have to take a financial hit to do so, but you want to make your team look attractive to them. I think that there's ways of thinking out of the box, away from this whole just bad teams get higher picks, place, that can work, but it requires really thinking out of the box and trying to create a system that's just completely new, and that is something that is very difficult, and that's something that's definitely not going to happen, right? And NHL is not going to be transitioning to the gold draft system anytime soon because they don't like change. They're sure as hell not going to go with anything like my solution or anything. So yeah, I definitely don't know that it's gonna work. It's gonna work that way. So yeah, it is tough. It is kind of like a little tough there. Um, Cheap Seat Sports saying relegation, it'll never happen, but it would stop tanking fast. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that's never going to happen. There's definitely different things that could potentially go, that they could potentially look at, but it's a very complicated issue, and I just don't know that we'll kind of see anything on that front anytime soon. I think this is really just kind of how it is. Um, it's it is tough. It is tough. And I guess on that we'll end things. Jeez. Like I said, that was a heck of a question there from Chuck at the end. Not gonna lie. It's an extremely complicated issue, especially for a solo post game live. But you know, I channeled the force like Dave was saying, and I gave my answer on it there. Had a lot of fun hanging out with everybody after this one, talking about this game as we always do. We always have a good time here on the post game lives. One more big shout out to Queen Anne Beer Hall for sponsoring these post game lives, and another reminder for that watch party we have coming up for that Kraken Vancouver game on Wednesday, April 2nd. It's going to be a 7:30 start, which is a little less than ideal, but we'll be having fun at the Moss Bay Hall location for Queen Anne Beer Hall. Really, really looking forward to that. We've got those Kraken tickets that you can win. Also, I'm gonna have maybe like a secret prize for people to win too, that you could maybe look forward to. I'll start teasing more and more as we get close to it and everything. Kind of work on things there. But really looking forward to that watch party and being able to do that with everybody again, and being able to check out the Moss Bay Hall location. I still have not been there. This will be at this point, I'm just going to wait and make that my first time being there. But I'm really looking forward to checking out that place. It sounds like it's a really cool location and everything. So looking forward to that. Dave coming through with one final super chat, just making a nice round, divisible by 5. Appreciate it, Dave. Cheap seats in the house. Everyone show some love for Scott with W's in the chat. Appreciate that love for Scott and Cheap Seat Sports. Definitely fans here at ECH of Scott and what he does there. Appreciate the super chat from Dave. Appreciate the super chats from everybody. And I'll see you all next time.